Breaking news. The Los Angeles Chargers may have just flipped the script on their biggest offseason concern. While critics are sounding alarms about the offensive line, a deeper look reveals something far more promising. What many thought would be a glaring weakness could turn into a secret strength. Stay tuned, because this isn't just speculation. There's real reason to believe the Chargers' trenches might be their new weapon. Let's talk about the battle in the trenches, where games are won and legacies are built. A lot of people are worried right now that the Chargers' offensive line, especially the interior, could be the team's weakest link this season. But here's the twist. That fear might actually be fueling something great. Across the league, top teams are redefining what it means to build a line, and the Chargers, they're quietly following a winning blueprint. Jim Harbaugh knows this better than anyone. He's not just building a roster, he's building a culture. And that starts up front. From Michigan to LA, Harbaugh has always prioritized smart, tough, relentless offensive lines. And now, he's molding one with the Chargers that's not just about names, but about fit, grit, and identity. Before we dive into more, take a second right now. Subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget the bell icon so you never miss a major Chargers update. Let's keep the momentum going, because what's coming next is even more surprising. Back to the trenches. Some NFL teams are throwing tackle money at guards, paying over $20 million a year. That's a red flag. It's unsustainable. But the Chargers? They're staying smart, strategic. They know tackles anchor the line. And while others overpay, LA is focused on value, development, and long-term dominance. So while others panic, the Chargers might be quietly stacking one of the most effective offensive lines in football. Let's shift gears and take a closer look at the interior of the Chargers' offensive line, because something's happening that isn't getting enough attention. While most fans are focused on the tackle spots, there's a quiet reshuffling going on inside. And according to one beat reporter who's been closely following this team, it could be a game changer. Let's start with the signing of Mekhi Becton. Once a first-round pick for the Jets, Becton never quite lived up to expectations at tackle. But last season, the Eagles made a smart move. They shifted him to guard, and that's where he found new life. He posted a PUF grade of 75.3, ranking him 21st among all NFL guards. That's a huge jump from where he was. So why did the Eagles let him walk? Simple. They were already locked into another high-priced guard and realized overspending on interior linemen isn't sustainable. That's the trend around the league. Teams learning that guard money shouldn't rival tackle money. Now, the Chargers may be benefiting from that very situation. They signed Becton to a team-friendly 2-year deal, and he could be a major steal. But that's not the only twist in the trenches. The Chargers are also planning a significant switch between two starters, Bradley Bozeman and Zion Johnson. Bozeman, who struggled at center last season, is expected to move to guard. Johnson, who's had his own ups and downs, will slide into the center position. It's a bold move, but it's calculated. According to Daniel Popper of The Athletic, Jim Harbaugh isn't rushing to overhaul the line. Instead, he wants to evaluate this new configuration during training camp before making any big decisions on bringing in more reinforcements. It's a test, a trial, and maybe, just maybe, it's the beginning of something that finally stabilizes the Chargers' interior front. Let's clear the air about something that's been misunderstood for far too long. This Chargers offensive line? It's not nearly as weak as many people think. In fact, it might be one of the most underrated units heading into the season. Pro Football Focus recently dropped their offensive line rankings, and the Chargers' front five landed in a spot that might surprise you. 10th best in the entire NFL. That's not middle of the pack. That's top tier. Their projected lineup heading into the new year includes Rashawn Slater, Zion Johnson, Bradley Bozeman, Trey Pipkins, and Joe Alt. Now imagine this. Replace Pipkins with Mekhi Becton, who's coming off one of the best seasons of his career at guard. Flip Johnson to center. Slide Bozeman to guard. Now you're talking about a completely restructured interior and two anchors on the outside. Let's break it down. Rashawn Slater, already ranked the #2 tackle in the league last year. He posted a dominant 90.9 PUF grade. Joe Alt, a rookie, yes, but one who ended the season strong with a 75.9 grade. placing him in the top 25 among all tackles. That duo? According to Puff, they could challenge the Eagles for the best offensive tackle pair in the NFL by the end of the season. Yes, there are questions inside. Zion Johnson hasn't quite lived up to that first-round hype yet, and Becton still needs to prove that last season wasn't a fluke. But here's where things get interesting. When players walk into a Jim Harbaugh locker room, they don't usually get worse. They level up. The physicality, the discipline, the no-nonsense football culture Harbaugh brings, it's tailor-made for offensive linemen to thrive. So while many fans are still clinging to last year's stats, the Chargers front office and coaching staff see something else. A unit that could dominate in the trenches and set the tone for the entire offense. The Chargers are stepping into the season with a coaching staff that knows how to get the most out of their players, and that alone gives them a real edge. But let's get honest about what's happening on the interior of that offensive line. When we talk about guards and centers, performance matters. Numbers matter. And last season, Bradley Bozeman just didn't deliver. Among the 40 NFL centers who played enough snaps to qualify, Bozeman ranked 29th. That's near the bottom. Let's be clear, there are 32 NFL teams. To be a starter, you should be at least top 32. But the best teams? They're fielding centers in the top 16, the upper half of the league. Bozeman simply wasn't there. Now, look at the guard duo, Mekhi Becton and Zion Johnson. Becton landed at 20th out of 64, making him a clear starter, and not just by default. That puts him in the top 30% of guards league-wide. Johnson? He had a starting caliber grade, solid, if not spectacular. But when paired with Becton, the combo brings stability, and maybe more. So let's step back. Is this interior line elite? Not yet. But is it as bad as some people claim? Absolutely not. In fact, despite those struggles, the Chargers still moved the ball. They ran effectively. They executed. And they did it with a backfield made up of Gus Edwards, who many thought was running on empty, and J.K. Dobbins still fighting through the scars of multiple injuries. The numbers tell part of the story, but performance under pressure, that tells the rest. And what this offense proved last season is simple. Even with a flawed interior, they found ways to win in the trenches. That's a credit to coaching, toughness, and a vision that might be closer to paying off than people think. Let's be honest, teams don't accidentally become a top 10 rushing offense in the NFL. When your running back room is made up of veterans with heavy mileage and injury histories, you don't move the chains unless the guys up front are doing their jobs. So if you're still doubting the Chargers' offensive line, it might be time to reevaluate. The tackles are developing fast. And if the switch works, if Zion Johnson transitions smoothly to center, it could unlock something that elevates this entire unit. Suddenly, you're looking at a line that's not just holding up, but pushing defenses back. Now, there's another possibility on the radar. Brandon Scherff, a veteran name that's been floated as a potential addition. Scherff is currently unsigned after a solid, but unspectacular year in Jacksonville, where he ranked 53rd among guards. That's not elite, but it's not bad either. Remember, this is a guy who used to dominate in Washington. He was once one of the most feared guards in the league, but the last few seasons in Jacksonville saw his performance dip. Why? Is it age, now 33? Or was it the instability around him? Jacksonville hasn't exactly been a model of consistency, especially in coaching and offensive structure. That's the real question here. And it looks like Joe Hortiz, known for his careful, cap-conscious decisions, isn't in a rush to find that answer. Instead, he's likely waiting, watching. If Jim Harbaugh feels confident in the internal reshuffle, if Zion Johnson thrives at center, and Bozeman finds his footing at guard, then they may decide to stay the course. No big signings. No overreactions. Because sometimes, the best move is trusting the players you already have. And in this case, the Chargers might just be quietly building something stronger than anyone expected.